Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And top of the morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. Look, the day out there is looking promising. It wasn't raining, and it promises to be another beautiful, brilliant, tranquil day on this wonderful island, Sri Lanka. But politically, all sorts of things are happening. And to report on yesterday's proceedings, to give you an insight of what happened in the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka, we have our very own Zulfick Faraz, who you're all familiar with, who reported ever so brilliantly from the Bond Commission. And we are also joined this morning by our very own Newsfirst's Mr. Asoka Dias. Very good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And that was said in unison. Yeah. Good morning was said in unison, which is hardly there's anything but unison in when it comes to politics in our country currently. Shall we start with the young Zulfick Faraz, Mr. Asoka?
As you may.
Zulfick, what was the ambience like? What was I was turned away because they said it was too big to get in, because apparently it was chock-a-block. Tell us all about that.
Well, for us, the situation inside the courtroom 502 yesterday can be summed up in just two words: a sardine can. That's how it was. It was packed. You couldn't even move an inch. Even senior lawyers like Govind Dasri, they had to find their way through the crowd and at least get a seat for themselves.
Right.
So it was a packed house. Lawyers, apprentices, and including politicians.
What were they doing there?
Everyone was inside waiting for that verdict, the interim injunction that the petitions were
Well, they didn't know it was
for.
interim, but they wanted some.
They wanted some relief, interim relief.
At least.
At least.
And they got it.
And they got it.
But it was a packed house.
It was a very packed house for us. Even at one point, the security was compelled to ask all the apprentices to stop moving inside because there's no room for anyone else.
Right.
It was a packed house for the media, packed house for politicians, and packed house for all the senior lawyers.
What was your thoughts about that when you were there? Were you obviously aware that you were part of history?
Indeed, for us, with the ambience that was happening, it was a landmark incident.
Did your hair stand up on the neck? Did you feel that you were part of history?
Definitely, definitely. It was a very remarkable experience as a journalist to report on such a landmark incident.
And why weren't you able to send us little updates from inside?
Well, for us, most of the journalists were not permitted to take their phones inside.
Ah, right. Oh, that's why.
Yes.
We thought you were ignoring us.
No, never.
No. Right. Okay. So, an electric atmosphere, Mr. Asoka Dias. Govind Dasri, as slim as he is, had to sort of, lose weight to get inside. Yeah. And I'm told that he was left standing on his feet for over 2 hours. And much younger lawyers flatly refused to give him a seat. And I think that was very unfair. But anyway, Mr. Asoka Dias, what's going on?
Okay, Faraz. Now we can look at what will happen today.
Yes.
That is the best way to look forward.
Yes.
And today at 8:30, the leaders of the political parties represented in the parliament will gather.
Right.
The speaker has already invited them for party leaders meeting this morning.
In parliament?
In parliament.
Right.
That is at 8:30 a.m.
Right.
Now that is the first thing.
Yeah.
And then the speaker has also informed the members of the parliament that the parliamentary sittings, proceedings will commence at 10 a.m. today.
Right.
Look, now we have to take the first thing first. The party leaders meeting, what will be the decisions? Now it's a new composition. Leader of the House, Dinesh Gunawardena, and
so it's the new ones.
So these are the things that will come up in the party leaders meeting, and then from there they will proceed to the parliamentary sittings per se.
Where will how can I describe him? Okay, where will Ranil Wickremesinghe sit?
Okay. Now, before that,
Yeah.
let's think of the situation. The party leaders,
What will they discuss?
they have to discuss on the proceedings.
Right.
Because earlier, now what happened was yesterday after the interim injunction given,
Yeah.
the status quo now is that the president, before dissolving parliament,
Yeah.
has stated that the parliament will convene
Yeah.
on 14th Wednesday, that is today.
Right.
So with the Supreme Court interim injunction,
Yeah.
it goes to that. So that is why today the parliament is convened.
So the Supreme Court interim injunction, the effect of that is to put on hold the dissolution.
Yes.
And goes back one step to what it was before. And
Yes.
it was a prorogement which was due to finish this morning.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's what's happening this
That
morning.
is what's happening, and then there will be this, if the at the party leaders meeting, if all parties agree, I mean there will be dissent whether to participate in the parliamentary sessions by the new government.
Ah.
They have already said that they are taking legal action. They had a press conference last night.
Yeah.
Honorable Nimal Siripala de Silva and Honorable Dinesh Gunawardena
Yeah.
at that press conference stated that they are taking legal advice and they are yet to decide whether they will attend the parliamentary sessions or not.
Right.
Now this is the pivotal thing.
Why would they not attend it?
See, if you attend the parliamentary sittings, then there will be the issue, if they attend, who is having the majority. That discussion will come up. I mean, they can't bring it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
A prime minister could be appointed only by the president. The way the parliament could remove and appoint a new person to suggest that is they have to bring in a no confidence motion. No confidence motion has to be tabled and it should be in the order paper for 5 days. Then only they can take it for debate.
Right. A myriad questions cross my mind now.
Exactly.
Because who will be the Prime Minister? Who will be the Leader of the House? Will it be the so-called new ones? Or will it be, as the Speaker was...
As the status quo.
Which status quo now?
Now, the President appointed the Prime Minister, that is Honorable Mahinda Rajapaksa. So he is the
from that
Prime
point.
Minister.
Okay.
That's clear.
Okay.
So in today's parliamentary sittings, if he attends, he will attend the parliament as the Prime Minister.
What? I know you're not privy to this, but what are the other things that they may want to do? Let's say the UNP. What do you think they may want to do?
It's very difficult to predict at this juncture.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Yeah.
UNP would try to have the parliamentary sittings today
Yeah.
and start the next move.
Yeah.
It may be, going for a no confidence motion or having a floor test. All that.
Is there precedent for floor tests in Sri Lanka's parliament?
All these things are to be decided how the party leaders decide and convene. And on top of that, last night in a press conference, Honorable Nimal Siripala de Silva very clearly stated that they are considering asking for a full bench to hear this case. That is, it was a 3-member bench which is sitting for this case, 5-member, 7-member, 9-member or 11-member bench. A full bench.
What's a full bench? Is it 5 or is it actually the full bench?
Now these things are legal interpretations. The
Right.
case is already being heard.
Yes.
It may be 5, it may be 7.
Can they change midstream?
These are all legal technicalities and those are to be fought,
Which is beyond us.
which is beyond us.
Yeah.
They are all legal technicalities.
Right. Like I say, myriad questions arise. What can they, okay, so many questions. Let's start with the first one. The most obvious one to me is, will the President be making his ceremonial address to Parliament? You know, they have this, what do you call it, the throne speech, so to speak. Will that happen, do you think?
Now, as the things unfold,
Yeah.
in this juncture, the best thing is to take one step at a time.
Right.
So we have to look at what are the outcomes of the party leaders meeting of the Parliament. And
Right.
from there onwards, you can...
So the party leaders may trailblaze and set new precedents, set a new standard, because normally we are used to seeing the President make his speech.
For us, these days, we are making new ground every
Every
minute, every day.
Right.
And with every move.
This is a bit like computers, isn't it? And dynamic IPs and static IPs. So we seem to be having always dynamic IPs, because the minute you switch it on and off, you get another IP address. You know, it's dynamic. It's a bit like that. Where every time you switch it on, Parliament, it's something else. And where are the standards? Where is the marker, the anchor that the people can look forward to?
That is a very good question, actually. Now, all these things are stemming from one crucial base factor. That is the Parliament's key role to make laws, to be legislators. Now everybody is saying the Sinhala translation, English translation, Tamil translation, various arguments. Everybody is blaming the other. But the key factor is, have the parliamentarians who blame each other fulfilled their role, their primary role as legislators? They should have gone through these documents. They should have checked this. It is their responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. I quite agree with you. All these anomalies in the 19th Amendment, in this amendment, and that amendment. Zulfick, was that the crux of the argument?
Well,
what was the crux of the argument?
Well, for us yesterday, the basic argument was the President's move constitutional or not?
Right.
Was the resolution of Parliament according to the Constitution?
Yeah.
So most of the attorneys representing the petitioners, led by senior lawyer, President's Counsel Kanagiswaran, who was fighting that battle for most of the petitioners in the front. So the main argument that he brings out is, in the Constitution you have section 70, then you have section 32. So what his argument is, you cannot read section 32 and section 70 as separate entities. And he drew reference
in isolation.
In isolation or standalone. The word that they use is standalone. You cannot use it as standalone. So he drew reference something like this. So if you read it as standalone, if you read it separately, it's like a dismemberment of state, like Jamal Khashoggi. That was his reference.
God bless Jamal Khashoggi. At least by Zulfick Farzan referring to it in the events in Sri Lanka, we are again reminded of the barbaric act by the state of Saudi Arabia against a dissident journalist, and who didn't like being called dissident, so he was a journalist. Carry on. I'm so upset about that still, but carry on about this.
So the main argument was on that point. How can you read these two sections separately? It has to be read together. So reading it separately is like a dismemberment of state. And in addition to that, they also brought a point where they say, it's always about the decision of the people. The people should be given an opportunity to decide. So now, this dissolution, they say it's a violation of the people's rights. And even we had Mr. Professor Ratnajivan Hool, a member of the Elections Commission, who had also filed a fundamental rights petition saying that his fundamental rights were also violated by the dissolution of Parliament.
Somebody said, I read somewhere yesterday, who was being quoted, that it must be the first time in world history, in the democratic history, that an election, the person in charge with having elections and monitoring all that, is actually fighting not to have elections. Well, how does that all gel with what was going on yesterday?
Well, for us, it all comes down again to the fundamental rights that they were referring to. Now, in Mr. Hoole's petition, it's basically that his fundamental rights were violated.
By what?
By the dissolution of Parliament. Right. That was the main argument that was brought forward by his attorney. In addition to that, we had the Attorney General, who was allowed to make submissions yesterday. Now, he was flanked by Mr. Dapula de Oliveira and several seniors from the Attorney General's department. So what he basically said was, if you are saying that this is unconstitutional, that means you're suspending the Constitution and it's unfair by the people. And that was one of his main arguments. So he's saying what the dissolution of Parliament was constitutional. And opposing views were from President's Counsel Kanagiswaran, M.S. Manduvan, and so on.
But I think the point was made by the Attorney General yesterday that the plenary powers of the President cannot be changed without a referendum of the people, and that's the point that we're making. Govind Asri, in the past, in the 19th, during the 19th Amendment, intervened and complained and maintained in his plea that the 4.5-year block on hold, where you can't have elections, he said that that was unfair on the people, to put the franchise of the people to sort of frustrate that for 4.5 years. And unfortunately or fortunately, the Supreme Court was silent on that. And it looks like we are today, or yesterday, now, paying the price of this anomaly. Mr. Asoka Dias, how do these anomalies creep into something like the Constitution? I mean, if it was a contract in this corporate, in the Maharaja corporate world, and if our legal department made a mistake like that in the contract, you know what will happen.
Exactly.
To me, this Constitution is like a contract.
Faraz, that is the thing that we have to look at seriously, because at the end of the day, it is the people's representatives, the parliamentary members, who has to look at these things. That is their primary job. Everything else this is a representative democracy. So they are there to represent us and check on the legal matters, the legislature and the new laws that has been passed. Now, Mr. Govind Asri pointed out, his argument was, whatever said and done, now it is passed. So we have to abide by that. That was Mr. Govind Asri's argument. Now, when this this piece of law was passed, there was no reaction from the parliamentarians that this franchise of the people is blocked for 4.5 years. Whether, I mean, that argument is valid or not, it's a different matter. But that discussion simply didn't come out. So that is the problem. There must be a pluralistic dialogue. There must be arguments. There must be serious discussions on the new laws.
It appears to me that our lawmakers, our legislators have been very flippant in Parliament, and they've been just waiting. They just rush these things through because they can't wait to get their fingers into the pudding, which is duty-free permits, this 100,000 a month, that 100,000 a month, put their wives, girlfriends, mistresses, whoever as secretaries, and draw salaries for them.
Faraz, and on top of
forget
that,
the people.
And when you are making law, it should be with the wider consent and, I mean, standards. Now, why 4.5 years particularly? Why this 4 plus 6 months? This 4.5 years. Now, what was the thinking behind? What was the reasoning? Is it for the greater good of the country? And then in the 19th Amendment, there was, I mean, this 4.5 year rule was introduced in the 19th Amendment. And then again, the age limit for presidential candidate for 35 years. Now, these are certain things that, I mean, I feel those are, aiming at to, come out of certain situations, get out of certain people. That is not the way forward. That is not the way, the supreme law of the country, the Constitution.
Yes, it's not. This is not about individualism. It should be about For the public.
For the greater good of the country.
Of the country, yes, exactly. Exactly.
And we should not forget that yesterday, as Zulfick very correctly pointed out, there were two interim injunctions. One was against this Gazette notification dissolving the parliament, and number two is that staying the action of the election commissioners and the election commission, organizing the election, general election, which was earlier announced that it will be held on 5th January 2019.
Then, Mr. Asoka Dias, don't you think that they missed out on one more? Shouldn't they have given one more interim order, which is to put on hold Parliament as well until the Supreme Court? Because you see, in my mind, I'm completely wrong, but I don't know, I don't think so. I'm just looking at it on the surface. You're telling me they're having a, business as usual, they're having party leaders meeting, then they'll have some speech or whatever it is, then they'll put something in the order paper. And what my fear and my concern as a member of the public is that all these things will be done before the Supreme Court can finish.
Faraz, now that is a point, that is a very important point. That why that sort of things are prevented is that the people's power is exercised through Parliament.
Yes, but so the people's power will be frustrated now,
People's authority, people's franchise and people's choice is through Parliament. That is why it is always upheld that Parliament has a role to play. At no time it has to be suspended. That has to be suspended. So that is the principle. That the principle of the representative democracy.
I see. It still seems to me that they should have finished the Supreme Court first and then started anything else. It seems to me the most logical way of doing it. Because why shall we ask the question, why have they wanted 2 or 3 weeks more, about 3 weeks, right?
Something like 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks more. Why do they want 3 weeks? Because, in my view, I don't know, that's what I understand from what I'm reading, is that they've got so many things to look into and so many petitioners, different points of view and so on, that they don't want to rush into anything, because later they don't want to be accused of saying, oh well, you will be partial here and a partial there and so on, because after all the Supreme Court is Supreme Court. So there's no going back or forward from there, right? So they want to be careful, because there's no good turning up at Nugegoda Market and saying, oh well, I'm terribly sorry, I made a mistake and I shouldn't, as Chief Justice, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, right. You retired, you're collecting your pension and the people are stuck with your decision. What kind of nonsense is that? Is that what's going to happen again now? So somebody's going to retire and say, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. It might not be in Nugegoda Market, it might be somewhere else. It might be in Tangor Market or God knows where, in Dambula Wholesale Market. Some chaps will turn up and say, you know what, I'm so sorry that I took that decision, but guess what, folks out there, we can't do anything about it.
In this instance, the procedure was followed, the court procedure was followed, and it was followed well, and we came to the conclusion of the first phase of that proceedings, which I think, in my opinion, was was a situation where everybody was happy, and everybody, sorry for the word happy, everybody agreed that the Supreme Court, the legal system, has given its best for the betterment of the checks and balances between the judiciary, parliament and the executive of the country. They are responsible to uphold that balance.
And I would like to add to what Asoka said.
Please do.
Because at the proceedings yesterday, they adjourned at around 3:45 and they said, we'll come back at 5.
Right.
But we'll have whatever decision or stance or ruling that we have, we will announce it at 5. But it went on until we were there until 5:45. It was almost 6 when this whole decision came out. So from that, we understood, myself and all the attorneys who were around me and the fellow journalists, we understood how important this was. And the discussion there was, this is so important. The judges don't want to make the wrong move.
Yes, but
this is so important.
But I feel that by reopening Parliament, this is, please understand that this is just me asking you, but this is a conversation.
Yes.
I'm just saying to you, now by letting Parliament go on, they can take action, they can get on with it, so that in the end, the Supreme Court decision will be of no use because they would have frustrated it.
For the Parliament, the decision is with the President and the Speaker of the House. Now, Speaker in a press release, a letter issued to the media yesterday said that he has convened the Parliament today at 10 o'clock. Now, that is when the President prorogued the Parliament, he has mentioned the date at 14. So, since that
that stands.
That stands at the moment.
Yes, but do you get the point that I'm trying to make? Whilst that's going on, they've let this door open. So it's almost like, you guys solve your own problem, and in the meantime, we'll consider this thing. What happens if, technically, what happens if the Supreme Court was to hold for the President? And that President...
For us now, it is entirely up to the Supreme Court.
Yes or no?
The court of the country to take, decisions after considering...
Have we found out why it is...
But for us, you can't forget the fact that it is people's mandate which is represented in the Parliament. Now, it is people's responsibility rather than giving it to any other institution, to whoever it is or whatever institution it is. To uphold democracy, they have to select people who can make law and who can understand what is the process of making law and what would be the implications of the laws that are passed today.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for all the SMSs. There's so many messages here. I really can't take all of them, but I'm going to look at the first one that I've seen here. Silver is the root cause of the buying and selling of the members of Parliament. Can that law be rescinded? Can it be? Any law can be rescinded if you want to, right? What do we say to that? Can we make that? What do you think?
What? I can't.
It says that the former Chief Justice, Silver, is the root cause that permitted the buying and selling of the MPs. I think what they mean is the crossing overs of MPs. You get elected from A and you go and sit with B. And then, if you want to, you might go and sit with C. But the voter voted for you because you were with A. Many other countries have
that is the
have
chicken,
the rule.
That is exactly the chicken and egg situation for us. Now the MPs cross and then somebody make a determination whether that was legal or not. But MPs, changing parties without the consent of the authority he gathered, the stem of the power and authority. I mean, that is, I think, the first party to blame is the member of Parliament himself or herself, rather than people who are deciding, looking at technically and deciding whether it is legally correct or wrong.
The need for judicial review of legislation has surfaced again. Regrettably, all governments resist this. Was one question or one statement. Somebody else says here, we know the Constitution confuses us. In this situation, let us assume that the new Prime Minister has a huge majority in the House. So he brings impeachment against the President. Under this, if PM wins, can he become a President? I think they are asking whether this is a third term question. You can't, can you?
There's a way that a President to be elected in Sri Lanka. Parliament or parliamentarians can't appoint a President at all. That is out.
Right. Well, do you know what, gentlemen? Time's up. And Zulfick, I believe that you're going off to somewhere even more or as important as yesterday. Tell us where you're going.
So I'll be in Parliament today.
You'll be in the House of Parliament. Are you going to have a subsidized breakfast?
I doubt about the breakfast, but I'll be reporting from Parliament.
Very good. Thank you. Are you allowed to send us updates?
I believe so.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we look forward to that.
I'll keep you updated.
Our radio and TV is waiting for anything to happen, and we'll be quick off the mark. We'll be first with the news, as we tend to always are. Team News First has endeavored to report to you, and our endeavors haven't been put on hold. All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Asoka Dias. Zulfick Faraz, thank you very much for being part of Newsline. And there you go. That's the way it was on Newsline today. Take care, have a great day, and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.